The text came at 7:18 a.m. on my wedding day, just as the makeup artist was blending highlighter onto my cheekbones. My phone buzzed once, discreetly, on the polished mahogany vanity. I glanced down, expecting a message from Ethan with some last-minute romantic sentiment. Unknown number. Your husband was in my bed last night. The champagne, flute, slipped from my mother's hand, shattering on the hardwood floor. The sound was like a gunshot in the quiet room. Oh, damn it all, she cried, jumping back from the spray of orange juice and sparkling brute. Sophie, the makeup artist, froze, her brush hovering near my temple. I didn't move. I just stared at the screen. The words were simple, devastating, a 5-word demolition of my future. Ava, honey, you're white as a ghost, my mother said, her voice tight with concern as a maid scurried in with a towel. What is it? Is it Ethan? Did something happen? My thumb moved before my brain engaged. Delete message. Confirm deletion. The words vanished, but they were now burned onto the back of my eyelids. Nothing, I said. My voice sounded strange to my own ears, distant. Calm. Just a spam text. Something about my car's extended warranty. I managed a shaky laugh. Even spam bits want to ruin a girl's wedding day. I looked at my reflection. The stranger in the mirror wore half a face of bridal makeup. Her eyes, one perfectly lined, the other bare, looked 1,000 years old. Well, that's a relief. Mom sighed, dabbing at a spot of champagne on her silk robe. I thought for a second, well, never mind. It's bad luck to even think it. Sophie, can you fix her? We've got photos in 45 minutes. Of course, Mrs. West, Sophie murmured, her eyes meeting mine in the mirror. There was a flicker of something there, suspicion, pity. Before she looked away and resumed her work. I sat perfectly still as she finished my face, my mind whirring like a computer processing corrupt data. Your husband was in my bed, the sender knew. They knew today was the day. This wasn't random. This was targeted. This was personal. My phone buzzed again. I flinched. It was Ethan. Can't wait to see you at the end of that aisle. Today. Tomorrow. Forever. I love you. I stared at the message. Sent at 7:20 a.m. 2 minutes after the other one. Coincidence? Or calculation? That him? Mom asked, peering over my shoulder. Oh, he's so sweet. Not like your father. On our wedding day, he sent me a text that just said, running late. Don't start without me. Man, she rolled her eyes, but she was smiling. Now, let's get you into that dress. The ceremony was a flawless, picturesque lie. The St. Thomas Episcopal Church smelled of lilies and old money. I walked down the aisle on my father's arm, a vision in custom Vera Wang silk, and every face I passed was a blur of smiles and tears, except one, Lily, my maid of honor, my best friend since our freshman year at Yale. She stood at the altar in dove-gray silk, her bouquet trembling in her hands. When our eyes met, she gave me a brilliant, tearful smile. It was perfect, and something about it made my stomach twist. Then I saw Ethan. He stood waiting for me, so handsome in his morning coat that it hurt to look at him. His blue eyes were wide with what looked like awe, his smile radiant, the perfect groom. As I reached him, he took my hands. His palms were warm and dry. Mine were ice. You are the most breathtaking thing I have ever seen, he whispered, his voice thick. The priest spoke. We said our vows, beautiful, poetic lies we'd written ourselves. Ethan's voice broke on the line. I promise to honor you with my faithfulness, today and every day that follows. The congregation sighed. I kept smiling. The muscles in my cheeks ached with the effort. When he slid the ring onto my finger, a flawless 3-carat diamond he designed himself, it felt like a shackle. I now pronounce you husband and wife. The priest boomed. You may kiss your bride. Ethan's hands framed my face. He looked into my eyes. and for one terrifying second, I thought he could see the text scrolling across my mind like a news ticker. Then he kissed me. It was soft, sweet, and tasted like betrayal. The reception at the Greenwich Country Club was a masterclass in luxury. A 12-piece jazz band, endless Dom Perignon, 10,000 white roses. I moved through the crowd on Ethan's arm, a painted doll playing the part of the blissful bride, to the beautiful Mrs. Cross. Someone shouted, raising a glass. The title hit me like a slap. I caught snippets of conversation as we glided past. Power couple, merger of two great families. Did you see her ring? It's bigger than my future. Ethan's hand was a brand on the small of my back. I felt his touch through the layers of silk and tulle. A constant, possessive reminder. During the toasts, Lily took the microphone. Her voice was clear and steady, her eyes shining with what looked like genuine emotion. I've known Ava for 10 years. She began. She's the strongest, smartest, most fiercely loyal person I know. And Ethan, you've made her happier than I've ever seen her. She raised her glass, her gaze finding mine. To Ava and Ethan, may your love be the shelter in every storm. The room erupted. To Ava and Ethan, I sipped my champagne. It tasted like vinegar. As the band struck up a slow song, Ethan pulled me onto the dance floor. He held me close, his cheek against my temple. Happy, he murmured into my hair. The happiest, I whispered. The lie smooth and practiced on my tongue. Over his shoulder, I saw Lily talking with Marcus Thorne, Ethan's business partner and best man. Marcus was a bear of a man who looked perpetually uncomfortable in a suit. He was listening to Lily, his head bent, but his unusual gray-green eyes were fixed on me. There was no congratulations in that look. It was watchful, assessing, almost pitying. Lily laughed at something Marcus said, throwing her head back, the column of her throat exposed. Then her eyes slid to me. The laughter didn't reach them. She gave me a small, tight smile before turning back to Marcus. The song ended. Ethan released me, his hand lingering on my waist. I need to go schmooze the Vanguard guys, he said, nodding toward a group of older men in expensive suits. Duty calls. You understand. Of course, I said. Duty before wife. I'm learning the rules already. He kissed my forehead. A dry, dismissive peck. That's my girl. I watched him walk away. My perfect husband. And the mask I'd been wearing all day finally cracked. Just a little. Just enough for the cold dread to seep through. Quite a performance. I turned. Marcus Thorne stood beside me, holding 2 glasses of scotch. He offered me one. I took it, my fingers brushing his. They were surprisingly warm. I'm not sure what you mean, I said, taking a sip. The liquor burned its way down my throat. Today, he said, his voice a low rumble. The blushing bride, the radiant smile, the adoring glances. Oscar-worthy. I forced a laugh. It sounded brittle. I'm just happy. Marcus, is that so hard to believe? He didn't smile. His eyes, that unsettling gray-green, held mine. I've been where you are, he said quietly, standing in a room full of people, smiling so hard your face hurts, while your whole world is collapsing inside. It's a special kind of hell. The air left my lungs. I just stared at him, the glass of scotch frozen halfway to my lips. Before I could form a response, Ethan was back, clapping a hand on Marcus's shoulder, trying to steal my wife already. You old dog. Marcus's expression transformed instantly, the intensity melting into joviality, just congratulating her on her excellent taste in husbands. Ethan laughed, a little too loudly. Come on. The Carters want to say hello. He took my arm, his grip firm. Excuse us, Marcus. As Ethan led me away, I glanced back. Marcus was still watching us, his expression unreadable. Later, in the bridal suite at the plaza, the silence was a physical presence. My wedding dress hung like a ghost in the massive closet. Ethan stood at the minibar, pouring 2 glasses of the Cristal that had been waiting for us. To us, he said, handing me a glass. His eyes were bright, a little unfocused from champagne. To Mr. and Mrs. Cross. We drank. The bubbles were too sharp, too sweet. Ethan, I said, setting my glass down with a soft click. Can I ask you something? He stilled, the champagne flute poised at his lips. Of course. Anything. Last night, after the rehearsal dinner, where did you go? A beat of silence. Then he smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. I told you, sweetheart, killer headache. I went back to the hotel and crashed. Why? I tried calling you. Around midnight. You didn't answer. The smile tightened. Ava, I took an Ambien. I was dead to the world. You know I can't sleep before big events. He came over, cupped my face. His hands were warm. Is that what this is? Wedding night jitters. I looked into his blue eyes, the eyes I'd fallen in love with. I searched for guilt, for evasion. All I saw was concern, and maybe a flicker of annoyance. No, I said, leaning into his touch. The perfect, trusting bride. No, of course not. I'm just tired. It's been a long day. The best day. He corrected, kissing my forehead. But you're right. We're both exhausted. And we have that awful long flight to Bali tomorrow. He finished his champagne, his gaze sliding away from mine. I'm going to take a shower, wash off the day. When the bathroom door closed, I retrieved my phone from my beaded clutch. My fingers flew over the screen. Hey, random question. Did you happen to see Ethan after the rehearsal dinner last night? He said he wasn't feeling well and went back to the hotel. But I thought I saw your car. I sent it to Lily. Then I waited, my heart hammering against my ribs. The 3 dots appeared, disappeared. My breath caught in my throat. Then her reply, oh yeah, I did see him. He looked really pale. I offered to drive him back to the city, but he said he had his car. I was worried about him driving TBH. Glad he made it back okay. A second text followed. Why? Is everything okay? I stared at the screen. 2 stories. Ethan's. He went straight to the hotel. Lily's, she saw him. Offered a ride. The timeline was off by at least 30 minutes. A small discrepancy. Explainable, but combined with the text. Your husband was in my bed last night. The bathroom door opened. Steam billowing out. Ethan emerged in a towel. His hair damp. Your turn, he said, his voice oddly flat. Later, in the enormous bed, he reached for me. His touch was familiar, his kisses practiced. When he entered me, I closed my eyes and thought of the text, of the anonymous number, of Lily's too quick reply, of Marcus's watchful eyes. Ethan finished quickly, with a muffled groan against my neck. Sorry, he muttered. I'm just so tired. The adrenaline crash. It's okay, I whispered, stroking his back. It was perfect. He rolled off me, and within minutes, his breathing evened into the deep rhythms of sleep. I lay awake for hours, staring at the ornate ceiling. The city lights painted shifting patterns on the plaster. Next to me, my husband of 12 hours slept the untroubled sleep of the innocent, or the guilty who believed they'd gotten away with it. Just before dawn, I slipped out of bed. I stood at the window, looking out at the waking city, the text burning in my mind like a brand. Your husband was in my bed last night. Tomorrow, we would fly to Bali. 2 weeks in paradise. 2 weeks to pretend. I had a choice. I could confront him. I could scream and cry and demand the truth. I could let the anonymous texter win, whatever their game was. Or I could wait. I could watch. I could learn. I turned from the window. Ethan was just a dark shape in the bed. The man I'd promised my life to. The man who might have promised the same to someone else last night. I made my decision as the first pink light of dawn touched the skyline. I would wait. I would watch. And I would find out exactly what game we were playing. Sunlight, sharp and accusatory, cut across my face. I blinked, confused by the opulent unfamiliarity of the room, the high ceiling, the brocade drapes, the lingering scent of gardenias from the wedding bouquets. Then memory returned. A cold, sickening tide, the wedding, the text, the perfect, terrible day. Ethan's side of the bed was empty. The sheets were cool. I sat up, my silk negligee twisted around me. Ethan. Silence, broken only by the hum of the minibar. I padded to the bathroom. Empty. His shaving kit was gone from the marble counter. I checked the closet. His suit, his garment bag, his suitcase all gone. A cold, knot tightened in my stomach. He's getting coffee, I told myself, or he went for a walk. He's a morning person. But his running shoes were by the door. His passport was on the nightstand, next to mine. We were supposed to leave for Bali in 4 hours. I walked into the sitting area. My wedding dress hung like a spectral reminder from the closet door, and on the coffee table, centered with meticulous precision, was a single sheet of paper. It was weighted down by an empty champagne flute. I moved closer, my bare feet silent on the plush carpet. The heading, in stark black type, made the blood drain from my face. Petition for annulment and settlement agreement. My hands began to tremble. I picked it up. The paper was thick, expensive. The legalese swam before my eyes. But certain phrases leapt out, each one a hammer blow. The marriage between the parties was entered into under false pretenses and constitutes fraud. Respondent shall vacate the marital residence at 817 Park Avenue, apartment 12B, within 72 hours of the signing of this agreement. Respondent shall make no claim to any property, assets, or accounts held solely or jointly by petitioner, including but not limited to the apartment at 817 Park Avenue, the summer home in the Hamptons, investment portfolios held with Crossthorn Capital Management, retirement accounts. Respondent shall repay petitioner the sum of $187.500, representing 1/2 of all wedding-related expenses incurred by petitioner. Respondent shall not disclose the existence of this agreement, its terms, or the circumstances leading to the dissolution of the marriage to any third party, including family, friends, or media outlets. Violation will result in liquidated damages of $2,000.000. It went on for 3 pages. Each clause was more brutal than the last. I was to walk away with the clothes on my back and the crushing debt of half a wedding I didn't want to pay for. I was to disappear, silently, as if I had never existed. At the bottom, next to the blank line awaiting my signature, was a post-it note in Ethan's sharp, angular handwriting. Ava, sign this. My lawyer will be in touch. Don't make this ugly. You won't win. E. The paper fluttered from my numb fingers. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. A strange, cold calm settled over me. It was the same feeling I got right before a high-stakes client presentation, a hyper-focused clarity where emotion was a luxury I couldn't afford. I walked to the minibar, my movements deliberate. I poured 2 fingers of the expensive scotch, neat, and drank it in one burning gulp. The liquor hit my empty stomach like a punch, grounding me. Okay, I thought. Okay, so this was the play. Not a confrontation, not a conversation. A legal ambush served with my morning coffee. The text hadn't been a prank. It had been a warning shot. And I'd missed it. I picked up the agreement again. My eyes caught on a line near the bottom. Based on the respondent's demonstrated infidelity and emotional manipulation. A bitter laugh escaped my lips. My infidelity, my manipulation, the sheer, breathtaking audacity of it. The door to the suite clicked open. I didn't turn around. I heard his footsteps on the carpet, the rustle of a paper bag. I brought you a latte, Ethan said. His voice was different, flat, devoid of the warm affection from yesterday. It was the voice he used with junior analysts who'd screwed up a report. Your usual. Oat milk. Extra shot. I turned slowly. He stood by the door, still in his tuxedo pants and a wrinkled white dress shirt. Unbuttoned at the collar, he held a paper coffee cup in one hand and a small paper bag in the other. He looked tired and utterly resolved. "Ethan," I said. My voice was remarkably steady. "What is this?" He set the coffee and bag on the console table. "It's exactly what it looks like. Our marriage was a mistake. I'd like to undo it as cleanly and quietly as possible." "A mistake." I held up the agreement. "This says I committed fraud. Infidelity." "What are you talking about?" He finally met my eyes. His were cold. Blue ice. "Come on. Ava, don't do this. Don't make me say it out loud. It's embarrassing for both of us." "Say what?" I took a step toward him. The cold calm was starting to crack, fury bubbling up beneath it. "Say what?" "Ethan, that you got a text on your wedding day. That you believed some anonymous, psychotic lie over the woman you married yesterday." A muscle ticked in his jaw. "It wasn't a lie." "How do you know?" I shot back. "Did you even stop to ask me about it? To talk to me? Or did you just have your lawyer draw up these papers the second you got it?" "I don't need to ask you," he said, his voice dropping to a low, dangerous register. "I have proof." The word hung between us. "Proof? What proof?" I whispered. He didn't answer. Instead, he walked to the desk, opened the drawer, and pulled out a manila envelope. He tossed it onto the coffee table, next to the annulment papers. It landed with a soft, damning thud. "Open it," he said. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely undo the clasp. I upended the envelope. Photographs spilled out across the glass tabletop. The first was of me, having dinner with David Chin, a colleague from Morgan Stanley. 3 weeks ago, we were leaning close over a candlelit table, deep in conversation. It looked intimate. It hadn't been. We'd been discussing a hostile takeover bid over steak frites. The second was a screenshot of a text thread. My number. A number I didn't recognize. The messages were damning. Unknown. Can't stop thinking about last night. Me either. It was incredible. Unknown. When can I see you again? Me, soon. After the wedding. This will all be over soon. I stared at the texts. They were from my phone. The timestamps were from 2 weeks ago. But I had never sent these messages. I had never received them. "This is fake," I said, my voice barely a breath. "Is it?" Ethan's tone was glacial. "The private investigator I hired seems to think it's very real, as do the digital forensics experts he consulted. The texts came from your phone. Ava, the location data puts you at the Mandarin Oriental that night, the same night you told me you were working late on the Henderson merger." I looked at the last photograph. It was me, entering the Mandarin Oriental. The timestamp, 9:47 p.m., March 24th. I had been at the Mandarin for a client dinner with David Chen and the Henderson team, a dinner Ethan knew about. "This is a setup," I said, looking up at him. The fury was gone, replaced by a cold, clear understanding. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a planned, coordinated attack. These texts are fabricated. The photos are taken out of context. "Ethan, you know I was with David Chin that night. He's a colleague. It was a business dinner." "That's not what he says." Ethan replied softly. "What?" "David Chin, when my investigator approached him, he confirmed the nature of your relationship. He provided a sworn affidavit." Ethan nodded to the envelope. "It's in there, along with credit card receipts from the hotel. For the room." The room tilted. I gripped the edge of the table. "You talked to David, and he said we were having an affair. He confirmed everything." Ethan said, a note of finality in his voice. "I'm sorry, Ava. I really am. I loved you. I wanted a life with you. But I won't be made a fool of. I won't stand in front of all our friends and family and pledge my life to someone who's been lying to me for months." The pieces snapped into place with a sickening clarity. The anonymous text. The proof. The airtight annulment agreement delivered before we'd even left for our honeymoon. This wasn't a reaction. It was a preemptive strike. He'd been planning this. But why? Why go through with the wedding at all? The answer came immediately. The prenup. The ironclad, ruthless prenuptial agreement his family's lawyers had insisted on, which I'd signed 6 months ago. It protected all his premarital assets, his future inheritance, his stake in Crossthorn, but it had a clause, infidelity clause. If I cheated, I got nothing, not even the apartment I'd been living in for 2 years. If he cheated, the consequences were far less severe. He needed me to be the villain. He needed a reason to dump me that wouldn't make him look bad, that would trigger the clause. So he'd created one. I looked at the man I'd married yesterday, the man who'd written me love letters and planned surprise weekends in Paris, and talked about the children we'd have. His face was a mask of pained disappointment. It was a masterful performance. So that's it, I said, my voice quiet now. All the fight had drained out of me, replaced by a hollow ache. You get a text, you hire a PI, you get some fake evidence, and you throw away our entire marriage without even talking to me. I tried to talk to you. He snapped, the calm facade cracking for the first time. Last night, I gave you every chance to come clean, but you just smiled and lied to my face. You stood there in that church and you vowed to be faithful, and the whole time you were fucking someone else. His words were like physical blows. I actually took a step back. I have never been unfaithful to you, I said, each word a chip of ice. But you know that, don't you? This isn't about the text. This is about you. What did you do, Ethan? Or should I ask, who did you do? His eyes narrowed. The mask was back, harder and colder than before. I'm not doing this. I'm not going to stand here and be gaslit by you. The facts are the facts. Sign the papers. Ava, sign them, and we can both move on with our lives. Move on. I let out a sharp, humorless laugh. To what? I'm supposed to be on a plane to Bali with my husband in 4 hours. Our families, our friends, they all think we're on our honeymoon. What am I supposed to tell them? That's your problem, he said, his tone utterly devoid of emotion. Tell them whatever you want. Tell them you had a crisis of conscience. Tell them you realized you weren't cut out for marriage. I don't care. Just don't mention the real reason. The NDA in that agreement is legally binding. If you breathe a word of this to anyone, you'll be sued for $2 million. You'll be bankrupt, unemployable. He walked to the desk, picked up a pen, and held it out to me. It was a Mont Blanc, the one I'd given him for his last birthday. Sign it, Ava. Make it easy on yourself. I looked from the pen to his face. The man I loved was gone. In his place was a cold-eyed stranger who had laid a trap for me and sprung at the morning after our wedding. The hollow ache in my chest began to harden into something else, something dark and sharp and dangerous. I walked toward him. I took the pen. I could feel his satisfaction, a nearly palpable wave rolling off him. He thought he'd won. He thought I was broken. I walked to the coffee table. I picked up the annulment agreement, and I looked him dead in the eye. You're right, I said, my voice soft. The marriage was a mistake. I saw the flicker of triumph in his eyes. It lasted only a second. I didn't sign the paper. Instead, I carefully, deliberately, folded it in half, then in half again. I walked to the minibar, picked up the crystal ice bucket, and dropped the folded agreement inside. Then I picked up the bottle of scotch, a 25-year-old Macallan, and poured it over the paper until it was soaked. Ethan stared, bewildered. What are you doing? I didn't answer. I took the box of matches from the console, struck one, and dropped it into the bucket. Whoosh! Blue flame leapt up, reflected 100 times in the suite's gilded mirrors. The scotch-soaked paper burned with a hot, quick, satisfying fury. Ethan's face went from confusion to shock to rage. Have you lost your mind? He snarled, stepping forward. I'm not signing your fucking papers. Ethan, I said, my voice low and steady. The flames danced in my eyes. You want an annulment. You want me to disappear. Then you're going to have to look me in the eye and tell me the real reason. And you're going to have to tell everyone else. Too. Your parents. My parents. All those people who toasted us yesterday. You're going to have to stand in front of them and explain why your marriage lasted less than 24 hours. He took a step toward me, his hands clenched at his sides. You stupid bitch. Do you have any idea what you're doing? I'll destroy you. No, I said, shaking my head slowly. A strange, cold smile touched my lips. You tried that. You presented your case, your fake evidence, your lies, and I'm rejecting your offer. You want a war. Ethan, you just declared it, but you should know something. I took a step closer to him, close enough to see the faint pulse beating in his temple. The fire from the ice bucket cast flickering shadows across his face. I'm not the girl you proposed to on that beach in Santorini. I whispered. That girl trusted you. That girl loved you. That girl is gone. You burned her to the ground with that text. What's left doesn't break. What's left fights back. For a long moment, we just stared at each other over the dying flames. The sweet smelled of smoke and expensive scotch and the death of our marriage. Finally, Ethan spoke. His voice was quiet, deadly. Get out of my suite. Eat sur suite. I corrected softly. For the next 2 hours. Until checkout. I believe I'll stay. You're welcome to leave. I saw the calculation in his eyes. The struggle between his fury and his need to maintain control. With a final, searing look of contempt, he turned on his heel, grabbed his passport from the nightstand, and walked to the door. He paused, his hand on the knob. You'll sign the papers. Ava, one way or another. You'll wish you'd done it today. Then he was gone. The door clicked shut with a sound of terrible finality. I stood in the center of the silent, smoke-hazed suite. The fire in the ice bucket had burned itself out, leaving a soggy, blackened lump. My wedding dress hung in the closet. My suitcase sat by the door, packed for a honeymoon that would never happen. I walked to the window. 12 stories below, the city went about its business, oblivious to the small, private catastrophe that had just occurred in a luxury hotel suite. Your husband was in my bed last night. The texter had gotten what they wanted. Our marriage was over before it had begun. But as I watched a yellow cab weave through traffic on Central Park South, a new, fierce determination hardened within me. It wasn't just about the text anymore. It was about the fake evidence, the lies, the trap. Ethan hadn't just broken my heart. He'd tried to annihilate me. He'd tried to make me a villain and send me into exile, penniless and disgraced. He thought I would break. He thought I would cry and beg and finally sign his papers. He was wrong. I picked up my phone, scrolled past the dozens of congratulatory texts from yesterday, past the photos of me smiling in my wedding dress. I found the number I needed. Not a lawyer. Not yet. I typed a message to the only person who had looked at me yesterday with something other than blind celebration. The only person who had seen the cracks in my perfect facade. Marcus, it's Ava. We need to talk. Today. I hit send. Then I walked to the shower. I turned the water on as hot as I could stand it. I washed away the smell of smoke, the scent of my wedding perfume, the last traces of the woman I had been. When I emerged, wrapped in a thick hotel robe, my phone was buzzing. A text from an unknown number, but not the same one as yesterday. You didn't sign, did you? Good girl. The fun is just beginning. I stared at the message. A chill that had nothing to do with the air conditioning traced a path down my spine. It wasn't from Ethan. The tone was all wrong. Someone else was playing this game, and they were just getting started. I deleted the message. Then I began to pack. Not for Bali. For a different kind of war altogether. Marcus Thorne's office wasn't in a glass tower in Midtown. It was on the 3rd floor of a converted warehouse in Tribeca. All exposed brick, steel beams, and industrial windows that let in the gray. In different light of a New York afternoon, the air smelled of old coffee and ambition. It felt real, unlike the perfumed, gilded cage I'd just escaped. His assistant, a young woman with a severe bun and sharper eyes, waved me in without a word. Marcus was standing at the window, his back to me, a massive silhouette against the cityscape. He held a mug that read words, "Okayest boss. You look like hell," he said without turning around, "but better than you did yesterday. Yesterday, you looked like a woman attending her own execution in a Vera Wang gown." It was Carolina Herrera, I said, my voice sounding raw. I hadn't realized how much screaming I'd done in that empty hotel suite after Ethan left. "And I feel like hell." He turned. The gray-green eyes took me in, head to toe. I'd changed into black jeans, a simple black sweater, and boots. My wedding rings were in the bottom of my purse, next to the scorched remains of the annulment agreement. I felt naked without the diamond, and strangely powerful. "Sit," he said, gesturing to a worn leather couch that looked like it had been salvaged from a 1970s detective's office. He took the chair opposite, setting his mug on a scarred coffee table littered with financial journals. "Start talking, and skip the bullshit. I've known Ethan Cross since he was a pimply freshman trying to buy his way into our fraternity. I know what he's capable of." I took a deep breath. Then I told him everything. The text, the wedding, the annulment papers waiting with the morning coffee, the proof of my infidelity. I left nothing out. My voice remained steady, clinical, even as I described the fabricated text messages, the out-of-context photos, David Chen's supposed affidavit. When I finished, the only sound was the distant wail of a siren from Canal Street. Marcus hadn't moved. His expression was unreadable. "He's good," Marcus said finally, a note of reluctant admiration in his voice. "I'll give him that. The timing is impeccable. The optics are perfect. The grieving, wronged groom, the scheming, unfaithful bride. It's a narrative people will swallow whole, especially with his family's PR machine behind it. You believe me?" The question came out smaller than I intended. He looked at me as if I were simple. "Ava, I've sat across the table from you in a dozen boardrooms. I've watched you dismantle seasoned CEOs with nothing but logic and a spreadsheet. You're the smartest, most ruthlessly strategic person I've ever met, present company excluded. If you were having an affair, there wouldn't be a single photograph. There wouldn't be a text message. There wouldn't be a trace. The fact that there's this clumsy, obvious trail of breadcrumbs tells me it's a plant. A bad one. Relief, sharp and sudden, made my eyes sting. I blinked it back furiously. David Chen, though. Why would he lie? Marcus leaned back, steepling his fingers. David Chin is up to his eyeballs in debt. Gambling, mostly on tech startups that went belly up. He's about to lose his apartment. His wife left him 6 months ago. He's desperate. How much do you think Ethan paid him? The cold, calculating part of my mind, the part that was slowly reawakening, began to whir. Enough to make it worth perjuring himself. But that's a risk. If I fight it, if it goes to court, it won't go to court. Marcus interrupted. That's not the play. The play is shock and all. Overwhelm you with the humiliation, the legal threat, the financial ruin, make you so desperate to make it stop that you sign anything. Most people would. Most people, faced with that kind of assault first thing in the morning, still hungover from their own wedding, would break. He didn't count on you burning the papers and calling his bluff. He said he'd destroy me. He'll try. Marcus picked up his mug, took a sip, but he's made a critical error. What's that? He involved me, Marcus said, his eyes glinting. By making me a witness to your performance yesterday. By making me part of the tableau. He assumed I'd just play my part, the loyal best man, the grieving friend. He forgot I have a low tolerance for bullshit and a long memory. He set the mug down with a decisive thud. Why do you think he's doing this? Ava, the truth, not the pretext. I'd been asking myself that for the last 6 hours. The prenup, the infidelity clause. If he just left me, I'd get something. Not much, but something. The apartment, maybe. A settlement. This way, I get nothing. I actually owe him money. It's cleaner for him, and it makes me the villain. He gets to keep his reputation spotless. That's part of it. Marcus agreed. But it's not the whole story. Ethan doesn't do anything without a financial motive. A bigger one. A cold finger traced my spine. What are you talking about? Marcus stood, walked to a filing cabinet, and unlocked it with a key from his pocket. He pulled out a thin folder, not a thick corporate one. This was personal. He dropped it on the coffee table in front of me. Open it. I did. The top sheet was a bank statement. Ethan's personal account at First Republic. The numbers were staggering, even to someone who worked in finance. The bottom line was a negative figure that made my breath catch. He's in debt, I whispered. But how? The firm is doing better than ever. His family money. The firm is a house of cards. Marcus said flatly, sitting back down. And the family money is an ocean with a very shallow bottom. His father lost a fortune in the 2008 crash and never really recovered. The cross fortune is mostly reputation and a few trust funds that can't be touched. Ethan's been playing a dangerous game. High risk, off-book investments, leveraging assets that shouldn't be leveraged. He's been using client funds as his personal piggy bank, moving money around to cover losses. It's a Ponzi scheme. Basically, just a very sophisticated, very well-dressed one. I stared at the numbers, the pieces clicking into a horrifying new configuration. He needs liquidity, a huge infusion of cash. Soon. Bingo, Marcus said. And guess who has a $5 million trust fund from her grandmother that matures and becomes fully accessible to her and her spouse upon marriage? The room tilted. I actually put a hand on the table to steady myself. The Eleanor West Trust. My wedding present from Grandma Ellie. I'd forgotten about it. In all the chaos, it was a thing my family did, a substantial trust that vested upon marriage, to give the new couple a start. Mine was unusually large. My grandmother had been unusually fond of me. $5 million. Free and clear. No restrictions. Marcus confirmed. Or it was, as of 2:15 p.m. yesterday when you said, I do. It's now marital property. And if you're found to have committed infidelity, triggering that clause in the prenup, he gets it all. I finished. My voice hollow. He gets my trust fund to plug the holes in his sinking ship. And he gets rid of me in the most damning way possible. So I can never come after him later. It's not just cleaner. It's brilliant. The word tasted like ash. It's desperate. Marcus corrected. And desperate men make mistakes. The text was his first mistake. Too theatrical. The annulment papers the next morning. Second mistake. Too hasty. It reeks of panic. Hiring David Chin. Third mistake. Chin is a weak link. He'll crack under pressure. I looked up from the damning bank statement. Why are you showing me this? You're his partner. His best friend. This implicates you. 2. If the firm collapses, the firm won't collapse. Marcus said, a hard smile touching his lips. Because I'm not an idiot. I've been quietly disentangling my interests for the last 18 months, moving my clients, securing my assets. I have copies of everything, every transaction, every shell company, every falsified report. I've been waiting for the house to fall down so I could walk away from the rubble. Your wedding just accelerated the timeline. I studied him. The shrewd, watchful eyes, the quiet, contained power in his frame. You want something from me. I want what you want, he said, to see Ethan Cross get what he deserves, and to protect my own interests in the process. Our goals are aligned. What's in it for you? Specifically, I wasn't the naive bride anymore. I was a negotiator. When this blows up, and it will, I need to be on the right side. The whistleblower, the partner who tried to rein him in, the one who helped the wronged wife. The optics, as Ethan would say, are important. I walk away with my reputation not just intact, but burnished, maybe even a book deal. The ghost of a smile again. Also, I like you, and I really, really don't like him anymore. The feeling's been mutual for a while. It was the most honest thing anyone had said to me in weeks. So what's the play? I can't go to the police with a hunch and a bank statement you may or may not have obtained legally. No, he agreed. We need more. We need the other woman. The words hung in the air. The other woman. The anonymous texter. The one who had started it all. You think she's real. Not just a number Ethan had someone send a text from. I know she's real, Marcus said. He pulled a photograph from the folder. It was grainy, taken from a distance, but unmistakable. Ethan, coming out of the Lowell Hotel on the Upper East Side at 1:17 a.m. last night, our wedding night. He wasn't alone. A woman was tucked under his arm, her face turned into his shoulder, but her silhouette, the cascade of honey blonde hair. Lily. I breathed. The world narrowed to that grainy image. My best friend, my maid of honor, the woman who had held my bouquet and toasted my happiness. It's Lily. It gets better, Marcus said, his voice devoid of all emotion. He slid another piece of paper toward me, a printed email from Ethan's personal, encrypted account, the one he thought no one knew about. Marcus had flagged the subject line. The plan. The email was short. All set for tomorrow. She bought the working late story. The package will be delivered at 7:15 a.m. sharp. Remember, wait until after the ceremony. The trust doesn't vest until you're legally married. Then hit her with the papers, first thing. She'll be disoriented. She'll sign. By the time she realizes what happened, the money will be moved, and I'll be on a plane to St. Bart's with a new last name. Can't wait to be Mrs. Cross for Real. Elle. I read it once. Then again. The words didn't change. The package will be delivered at 7:15 a.m. The text. Wait until after the ceremony. The trust. She'll sign the ambush. Mrs. Cross for Real. A high-pitched ringing started in my ears. I thought I might be sick. I pressed a hand to my mouth. My eyes glued to the signature. Elle. Lily. It hadn't been a random betrayal, a moment of weakness. It had been a plan, a coordinated, cold-blooded plan to steal my future, my money, my life. They'd planned it together. They'd executed it on my wedding day. Lily had stood beside me, fixed my veil, held my flowers, and all the while she'd known the text was coming. She'd known the trap was about to spring. The rage that erupted in me then was unlike anything I'd ever felt. It was white-hot and silent and all-consuming. It burned away the last of my grief, my confusion, my heartbreak. What was left was pure, undiluted purpose. I looked up at Marcus. My vision was clear. Steady. What do you need me to do? He nodded, as if I'd passed a test. First, you go home, to the apartment. He said I had 72 hours to vacate. He can say whatever he wants. You're a tenant. He'll have to evict you, and that takes months. Go home. Act normal. Well, not normal. Act devastated. Because you are devastated. Your husband left you the morning after your wedding. You're confused, heartbroken. You have no idea why. And Lily, I asked, the name like poison on my tongue. You call her. Marcus said, you're a mess. You need your best friend. You're staying in the apartment, trying to figure out what went wrong. You're vulnerable. You need her support. I saw it immediately. I draw her in. Get her to talk. To confess. On the record. Better. Marcus said. He reached into his desk drawer and pulled out a small, sleek device. It looked like a fancy USB drive. This is a voice-activated recorder. State of the art. Picks up everything in a 20-foot radius, even through a purse. You get her talking. You get her to admit to the text, to the plan, to the affair. We get it on tape. That, combined with the financial records, is a nuclear weapon. I took the recorder. It was cool and heavy in my hand. And then, Then we decide when to push the button. Marcus said, but first, we need to secure your assets. The trust fund. He's probably already moving to freeze it or transfer it. We need to get ahead of him. I've taken the liberty of contacting a lawyer. The best. Miranda Shaw. She eats guys like Ethan for breakfast. She's expecting your call. He slid a business card across the table. Tell her everything. Show her what I gave you. She'll know what to do. I picked up the card. Miranda Shaw. Shaw Associates. Litigation and Family Law. The office was on Park Avenue. Of course it was. This is a lot. Marcus, I said quietly, you're risking a lot. For what? Really? He was silent for a long moment, looking out the window at the gathering dusk. My wife, he said finally, the word rough. Catherine. She died 3 years ago. Ovarian cancer. Ethan was my best friend. He was there for me. For a while. Then he saw an opportunity. A vulnerable widower with a lot of money and not a lot of will to live. He encouraged some investments. Very bad ones. By the time I realized what was happening, I'd lost almost everything she and I had built together. The house in Connecticut, her art collection, the foundation we'd started in her name. He turned back to me, and for the first time, I saw the raw, unvarnished pain beneath the sardonic exterior. He took what was left of her. So no, Ava, I'm not doing this out of the goodness of my heart. I'm doing it for vengeance. And if I can help you in the process, all the better. Consider us a mutually beneficial alliance. The honesty was brutal, and I trusted it more than any promise of altruism. Okay, I said, standing up. The recorder felt like a talisman in my hand. Okay, I'll call Miranda. Then I'll call Lily. Marcus stood as well. One more thing. The other text. The one you got after Ethan left. The fun is just beginning. You know about that. I know everything that happens on your phone right now, he said without apology. I had it mirrored the moment you walked in. Security precaution. The number that sent that second text is a different burner. But the phrasing, it's not Ethan. And it's not Lily. Someone else is watching. Someone who knows what's happening. Be careful. A fresh chill went through me. Who? I don't know yet, but I'll find out. In the meantime, play your part. The heartbroken bride. It's the one role he won't expect you to master. I nodded, slipping the recorder and the business card into my purse. At the door, I paused. Marcus, thank you for believing me. He gave me a curt nod. Don't thank me yet. The hard part starts now. Go break your own heart, Ava, then break theirs. I took a cab to the apartment on Park Avenue. Our apartment. The doorman, Carlos, gave me a sympathetic smile as I walked in. Rough honeymoon already. Mrs. Cross, he asked gently. The news, it seemed, hadn't broken yet. Something like that. Carlos, I murmured, not meeting his eyes. The apartment was a museum of our life together. Ethan's minimalist. Cold modern, aesthetic tempered by the warmth I'd tried to inject, the plush rug, the art I'd chosen, the photographs on the shelves, pictures of us in Napa, in Aspen, in Sicily, him looking at the camera, me looking at him, my face alight with a love that now made me nauseous. I walked to the bar, poured 2 fingers of bourbon, Ethan's expensive bourbon, and drank it standing in the middle of the living room. Then I pulled out my phone. I didn't call Miranda Shaw first. I had to be in the right headspace for that. A calculated, legal headspace. First, I had to be a heartbroken friend. I called Lily. It rang 3 times before she picked up. Her voice breathless, concerned. Ava. Oh my God. I've been so worried. I tried calling you this morning. Are you at the airport? Did you guys make your flight? The performance was flawless. I closed my eyes, summoned the tremor, the tears that were, to my surprise, not entirely fake. Lily, I whispered, letting my voice crack. He's gone. What? Who's gone? Ava, you're breaking up. Are you in Bali? I'm at the apartment, I said, sinking onto the couch. pulling my knees to my chest. The vulnerable pose helped the voice. Ethan, he left. This morning. He gave me papers. Annulment papers. He says I cheated on him. With David Chin. The silence on the other end was a masterpiece of timing. Just long enough to convey shock. Not long enough to seem rehearsed. What? Ava. That's insane. That's the most insane thing I've ever heard. David Chin. From Morgan Stanley. You barely know him. But you knew his name. I thought coldly. I didn't say it. He has pictures. I sobbed, laying it on thick. Texts. He says David confessed. Lily, I don't know what to do. He wants me to sign these papers. He wants me to say it's all true and just go away. I have nowhere to go. I have nothing. I let the sobs take over. Ugly, gasping things. The Borlet helped. Oh, honey. Oh, my sweet girl. I'm coming over. Right now. Don't move. Don't do anything. I'll be there in 20 minutes. No, you don't have to. I protested weakly. I'm already in a cab, she said, and I heard the muffled sound of her giving an address. Our address. Just sit tight. We'll figure this out. It's a misunderstanding. It has to be. I'll make some calls. David Chin. I'll talk to him. This is all just a terrible mistake. I bet you will. I thought. Okay. I whispered. Okay. Thank you, Lily. I don't know what I'd do without you. That's what best friends are for, she said, her voice dripping with compassion. 20 minutes. Hang on. She hung up. I lowered the phone. The sob stopped as if I'd turned off a tap. I wiped my face, walked to the bathroom, and looked at my reflection. My eyes were red-rimmed, my face pale. Perfect. I took the recorder from my purse, turned it on. A tiny red light glowed. I slipped it into the inner zip pocket of my purse, leaving the zip slightly open. Then I placed the purse on the kitchen island, the opening facing the living room. I poured another bourbon, this one just for show. I left it on the coffee table, mostly full. I mussed my hair. I took off my wedding ring and left it on the counter, a poignant, abandoned symbol. Then I waited. 17 minutes later, the intercom buzzed. I pressed the button, my voice a broken whisper. Lily, it's me, sweetie. Let me up. I buzzed her in. I heard the elevator ding. The door opened, and there she was, Lily, in designer jeans and a soft cashmere sweater, her blonde hair in a perfect messy bun, her makeup understated. She looked like an angel of mercy. She took one look at me and rushed forward, pulling me into a hug that smelled of her signature perfume, Jo Malone with sage sea salt, the scent of our friendship. Now it made my skin crawl. Oh, Ava, she murmured into my hair. Oh, you poor thing. Your hands are like ice. She led me to the couch, sat me down, and took my hands in hers, rubbing them. Her touch was warm, deceitful. Start from the beginning. Tell me everything. So I did. I repeated the story, embellishing the heartbreak, playing up the confusion. I showed her the burned, soggy remains of the agreement I'd fished out of the ice bucket and brought home in a hotel laundry bag. I showed her the photos of me and David Chin. I let her see the texts on my phone, the ones Marcus had already confirmed were fabricated, but she didn't know that. Throughout it all, she was perfect, horrified, outraged, supportive. I can't believe Ethan would do this, she said, shaking her head, her eyes bright with what looked like genuine tears. After everything you've built, after yesterday, it was so beautiful. Ava, he looked at you like you were the only woman in the world. I know, I whispered, staring at my hands. That's what I don't understand. If he thought I was cheating, why go through with the wedding? Why not confront me before? Lily went very still. I could almost hear the gears turning in her head. This was the flaw in their story, and she knew it. She had to patch it. Maybe he wanted to believe it wasn't true. Maybe he was hoping, right up to the last minute, that you'd confess. And when you didn't, I don't know, maybe he just snapped. Men and their pride. You know, maybe. I said, playing along. I looked up at her, letting my eyes fill with fresh tears. Lily, do you think there's someone else? For him. Her face did something complicated. A flicker of something, panic. Guilt, doubt, before it settled into sympathetic concern. What? No. No, of course not. Ethan adores you. Adored you. This is just a monstrous misunderstanding. A terrible, terrible mistake. He was acting strange last night. I pressed, watching her like a hawk. After the wedding. Distant. And the night before at the rehearsal dinner, you saw him. You said he looked sick. Do you think he was with someone then? Lily's breath hitched. Just the tiniest bit. She stood up, suddenly needing to pace. Ava, don't do this to yourself. Don't go down that rabbit hole. It'll only make it worse. I just need to understand. I cried, the desperation in my voice not entirely feigned. I need to know why my life is over. Was it someone I know? Someone from the firm? Was it someone at the wedding? I looked at her, my eyes wide, innocent. Did you see him talking to anyone? Flirting? She stopped pacing, her back to me. Her shoulders were tense. I saw him talking to a lot of people. Ava, it was our wedding. He was the host, but you offered him a ride. I said softly, that was so sweet of you. You're always taking care of everyone. She turned around. Her smile was brittle. It was nothing. He's my best friend's husband. Was. She corrected herself. A little too quickly. I was just worried about him. I know, I said, getting up, walking toward her. I was shaking, and this time it was real. The rage was a live wire under my skin. I stopped in front of her, searching her face. You're my best friend. Lily, you're the only person in the world I trust right now. Tell me the truth. If you know something, anything, please. I can't take the lies anymore. The moment stretched. I saw the war in her eyes, the desire to gloat, to finally claim her victory, battling with the need to maintain the charade a little longer, the need to make sure I was truly broken, truly defeated, before she revealed herself. The gloat won. Her expression changed. The concern melted away, replaced by something colder, more triumphant. She didn't smile, but her eyes glittered with a malice I'd never seen before. Oh, Ava, she sighed, a note of pity in her voice that was more insulting than any insult. You always were so clever, but so stupid about the important things. I took a step back, playing my part to the hilt. What does that mean? It means you never deserved him, she said, her voice dropping, losing its performative warmth. It was flat, matter of fact. You with your 5-year plans and your spreadsheets and your trust fund. You thought you could buy a man like Ethan, a man who needs passion, fire, someone who understands what he really wants. The recorder in my purse was capturing every word. I could feel the tiny red light burning like a coal. What are you saying, Lily? I whispered. I'm saying the text was real, she said, crossing her arms, leaning back against the kitchen island, a pose of utter confidence. I'm saying he was in my bed. He has been for 6 months. I'm saying the only reason he married you yesterday was for that trust fund. And now that he has it, he doesn't need you anymore. We don't need you anymore. Each word was a precise, surgical cut. I let the pain show on my face, let the tears fall. 6 months, I repeated, my voice breaking. The Hamptons. In July, you said you were visiting your parents. I was with Ethan, she said, a smug smile finally touching her lips, at a little inn in Sag Harbor. It was magical. He said you were already more of a business partner than a wife. So boring. So predictable. I stumbled back to the couch, sinking down as if my legs wouldn't hold me. The pictures. David Chin. Ethan's idea, she said, waving a dismissive hand. He needed insurance. To make sure you'd sign the papers and go quietly. David was easy. He's broke. A little money. And he was happy to play along. The texts were child's play. Ethan has a guy who can spoof anything. She came and sat on the coffee table in front of me, leaning close. Her perfume was cloying now. Sign the papers. Ava. Take the loss. Walk away. You're young. You're pretty. You'll find some nice, boring banker who wants a wife with a 5-year plan. Let Ethan go. Let us be happy. You had your chance. And you blew it. You were never enough for him. I looked up at her, letting her see the shattered wreck she thought she'd made of me. You were my best friend. I choked out. And now I'm going to be his wife, she said, standing up, brushing imaginary lint from her jeans. It's better this way. Cleaner. Sign the papers. He'll have a messenger bring a new set tomorrow. Don't burn these ones. It's undignified. She walked to the door, then paused, looking back at me with something that might have been the ghost of our former friendship. For what it's worth, I am sorry it had to be like this, but you'll understand one day. When you really love someone, you do what you have to do. Then she was gone. The door clicked shut. I sat on the couch for a full minute, not moving. Then, slowly, I got up. I walked to my purse. I took out the recorder. The red light was still glowing. I pressed stop. I played back the last 30 seconds. Her voice, clear as a bell, filled the silent apartment. I'm saying the text was real. I'm saying he was in my bed. He has been for 6 months. The only reason he married you yesterday was for that trust fund. Sign the papers. Ava. Take the loss. Walk away. I saved the file, emailed it to myself. Then I sent a copy to Marcus with a one-word message. Proof. His reply came almost instantly. Perfect. Now call the lawyer. The war starts now. I picked up Miranda Shaw's business card. Then I looked around the apartment, my prison, my battlefield. The rage was still there, but it had a new shape now. It was focused, sharp, a weapon. Lily thought I was broken. Ethan thought I was defeated. They had no idea what was coming. I picked up my phone and dialed. June 12th, 2026, 1:47 p.m. Lily's desperation had a particular texture, like cheap perfume trying to mask the smell of decay. Her texts evolved from panicked pleas to incoherent rants, then finally settled into a chilling, calculated calm. I'm at the mark. The bar. Come alone. We need to talk woman to woman. Or I go to TMZ with my side of the story. You have 30 minutes. I stared at the message, the pendant of the recording necklace cool against my skin. I'd already captured her confession. Getting more was greedy. But Miranda's words echoed in my head. We need to tie her directly to his crimes. The audio from the garden had her admitting she knew about Ethan's creative accounting. But it was vague. We needed specificity. We needed a smoking gun. I texted Miranda. Lily wants to meet at the Mark bar, threatening to go to TMZ. Her reply was immediate, too public. The bar is all hard surfaces. Impossible for clean audio. It's a trap. She'll have someone there. Maybe a reporter she's already tipped off. To stage a confrontation. Decline. Suggest somewhere you control. I typed back to Lily, not the Mark. Too many people. The reading room at the Morgan Library. 3 p.m. Come alone. Or I walk. And Lily, I'm recording everything now. Just so you know. I sent it. The Morgan Library's reading room was a cathedral of quiet, with soaring ceilings, dark wood, and the kind of hushed atmosphere where a whisper carried. It was also a controlled, semi-public space with its own security, and the threat of recording was a psychological play. It might make her reckless, or it might make her slip. Her response, fine. 3 p.m. I arrived at 2:45, the recording necklace active, a tiny backup audio device in my purse. I chose a table deep in the room, flanked by towering bookshelves. The air smelled of old paper and money. I ordered tea, my hands steady around the porcelain cup. She was 10 minutes late, a flurry of black cashmere and agitation. She slid into the chair opposite me, her eyes darting around the nearly empty room. She looked like she hadn't slept. The heirloom diamond earrings were gone. You look terrible, she said, her attempt at the old, catty friendship falling flat. You look like you're running from the FBI. I replied calmly, taking a sip of tea. Oh, wait, you are. Her face tightened. This isn't a joke. Ava, you've ruined everything. I've ruined everything. I kept my voice low, even. The acoustics of the room would do the rest. You slept with my fiancé for 6 months. You helped him plan to steal from me. You sent that text on my wedding day. What, exactly, did I ruin? Your perfect little scheme. It wasn't a scheme, she hissed, leaning forward. It was love. What Ethan and I have is real. You were just a business arrangement that went on too long. The audacity was breathtaking. I almost admired it. A business arrangement with a $5 million signing bonus. Tell me, did you have a revenue sharing model? Or was your cut just the diamond earrings? Where are they? By the way, pawned already to pay for your lawyer. Her hand flew to her bare earlobe. Attell, you don't understand the pressure he was under. The firm, Marcus, was undermining him at every turn. Clients were getting nervous. He needed to show strength. Liquidity. Your trust fund was the liquidity. I finished. So you admit it was a financial play. Fraud. It's not fraud. She snapped, then lowered her voice as a librarian shushed us from across the room. It's strategic reinvestment. He was going to pay it back. With interest. Once the Dubai deal closed. The Dubai deal.my mental notepad lit up. Marcus hadn't mentioned a Dubai deal. A new shell. Maybe. A new lie to lure investors. The Dubai deal that's funded with other clients' money. I pressed, my tone conversational, as if discussing the weather. The one the SEC is now crawling all over. That Dubai deal. Her eyes widened. How do you know about the SEC? It's in the Wall Street Journal, Lily. Page 1, right below the story about the socialite who bangs her best friend's husband. You really should read more. The barb landed. Color flushed her cheeks. Ethan will handle the SEC. He has friends. This will all blow over. But you need to retract your statement. You need to say you were distraught, that you edited the audio, that I was just trying to comfort you by telling you what you wanted to hear. I almost laughed. And why would I do that? Because if you don't, she said, her voice dropping to a venomous whisper, I will tell everyone about David Chin. I have photos, videos, taken at the Mandarin, very explicit. I will release them. Your reputation will be mud. You'll never work in this city again. You'll be a laughingstock, a cheater and a liar. I leaned back, studying her. The fear had been burned away, replaced by a vicious, cornered animal fury. This was the real Lily, stripped of the cashmere and the cultivated charm. A predator. You have no photos, Lily, because nothing happened. David Chin is a broke, desperate man you and Ethan paid to lie, and he's already recanted. Her bravado faltered. What? This morning. To my lawyer, and to the private investigator Ethan hired, who is now working for me. Turns out, when you offer a man immunity from prosecution for perjury and a cash settlement that doesn't involve prison, he becomes very cooperative. He gave a full statement about the money Ethan wired to his offshore account, about the staged photos, about the fake text threads you helped write. He's our star witness now. It was a bluff, partly. Miranda was negotiating with Chin, but it wasn't done. But Lily didn't know that. I saw the knowledge hit her like a physical blow. Her alibi was crumbling. You're bluffing, she whispered, but the conviction was gone. Am I? I pulled out my phone, opened a blank email, and pretended to scroll. His signed affidavit is right here. Wanna see? She stared at the phone as if it were a live snake. The last of her composure shattered. You can't do this. You'll destroy him. You'll destroy the firm. All those people, their investments were already gone. Lily, he was running a Ponzi scheme. You knew that. You just didn't care. as long as you got your piece. How much did he promise you? After my trust fund cleared, what was your cut? $1 million. 2. A penthouse on Fifth. Her lips pressed into a thin, white line. She said nothing, which was an answer in itself. The SEC isn't the problem, Lily. The U.S. attorney is. This is federal. Wire fraud, securities fraud, conspiracy. The sentence for that, for the mastermind, is measured in decades. For the accomplice, maybe less. If she cooperates. I let the word hang in the air. Cooperates. Her eyes met mine. I saw the calculation. Swift and brutal. The instinct for self-preservation. The only real religion she'd ever practiced. Kicking in. What are you saying? I'm saying Ethan is going down. The evidence is overwhelming. Marcus has records of everything. The only question is who goes down with him. You can be the tragic, manipulated mistress who was lied to and is now bravely helping the authorities. Or you can be the scheming co-conspirator who gets the same 20-year sentence he does. Your choice. She was shaking now, a fine tremor in her hands. She clasped them together on the table. He'll never let that happen. He'll say I forced him, that I blackmailed him. He'll throw me under the bus. Probably. I agreed. In fact, I'd bet on it. He's already doing it. His lawyer's new theory, according to my sources, is that you're an obsessed stalker who fabricated the entire affair to break up his marriage. That you sent the text. That you doctored the evidence. That you seduced him once. He rebuffed you, and you've been seeking revenge ever since. It was another bluff, but a plausible one. Ethan's survival instinct was at least as strong as Lily's. He would sacrifice her in a heartbeat. The color drained completely from her face. He wouldn't. He already is. Check your own lawyer's messages. I'm sure they've been advised to distance you from him. You're becoming a liability, Lily, and Ethan only values assets. I could see her world collapsing in real time. The fairy tale, the wealthy husband, the penthouse, the social position dissolving into the cold. Hard reality of FBI interrogations and orange jumpsuits. Her eyes filled with real tears for the first time. Tears of pure, selfish terror. What do you want from me? She choked out. The truth. I said, all of it, on the record. How the scheme worked. The timeline. The money trails you know about. The Dubai deal. The other shell companies. Everything. You give that to the U.S. attorney. And in exchange, I'll make sure my lawyer advocates for a deal for you. Immunity. Maybe. Or a reduced sentence. You might even avoid prison. You'll be broke, but you'll be free. And if I don't, then you and Ethan can share a cell. I hear the Women's Federal Correctional Facility in Danbury is lovely this time of year, though the orange really isn't your color. She was silent for a full minute, staring at the polished wood of the table. When she looked up, her eyes were dead. The fight was gone. I want immunity. In writing. Before I say a word. You'll have to take that up with the assistant U.S. attorney. But I'll make the introduction. Today. She nodded. A tiny, defeated movement. Okay. Start talking. Here. Now. I tapped the pendant at my throat. For the record. And she did. For 47 minutes. In a terrified monotone. Lily Sloan dismantled the man she claimed to love. She detailed the first flirtation at a Hamptons party a year ago. The first kiss in Ethan's office after hours. The affair, conducted in hotel rooms and, when I was out of town, in my apartment, she described Ethan's growing panic about the firm's finances 8 months ago, his idea about the trust fund, her role in crafting the infidelity narrative. She named the for-hire tech guy who'd fabricated the texts. She confirmed the payments to David Chin. She listed 3 shell companies Ethan used to move client money: Pegasus Holdings, Dubai Sovereign Investment Partners, and Ether Capital. She gave dates, amounts, bank routing numbers she'd memorized from documents on Ethan's computer. It was a waterfall of damning information, a guided tour of their corruption. When she finally fell silent, exhausted and hollowed out, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. The U.S. Attorney's Office will contact your lawyer within the hour, I said, standing up. Don't leave the city. Don't talk to Ethan. If you warn him, the deal is off, and I'll give them this recording. Understood. She just nodded, staring blankly at the rows of ancient books, as if seeking wisdom in their silent spines. She found none. I walked out of the Morgan Library into the bright afternoon, the weight of the recording immense. I hailed a cab and gave Miranda's address. As the car pulled into traffic, my phone buzzed. Not a call, a text from a new, unknown number. The lion's den is full of snakes. You're playing with fire. Little girl, watch your back. I stared at it. The second texter, the watcher. They knew about the meeting. They were warning me, or threatening me. I texted back, who is this? No reply. I tried calling. The number was already disconnected. The cab sped downtown, but a cold knot of dread had formed in my stomach. Lily and Ethan were one thing. This was something else. Someone else was in the game, and I had no idea whose side they were on. Miranda's conference room smelled of cold coffee and intense focus. Marcus was there, along with a man introduced to me as Robert Vance, a former federal prosecutor who now headed Miranda's white-collar crime division. He had the weary eyes of a man who'd seen every flavor of human deceit. We played Lily's Confession from the Morgan Library. Robert Vance listened, eyes closed, occasionally making a note on a legal pad. When it finished, he let out a low whistle. She just handed you the keys to the kingdom and the combination to the safe. This is prosecutorial gold. The Dubai Sovereign Investment Partners shell, we've seen traces of that in other cases. It's a favorite of a particular breed of fraudster. Very sophisticated. Can you get her immunity? I asked. For this, Vance said, tapping the pad. She's a minor player who delivered the architect. The AUSA will drool. She'll get a non-prosecution agreement, maybe witness protection if she's scared enough. She'll walk. A slap on the wrist. You're okay with that? I thought of Lily in the library, broken and terrified. The friend I'd loved was a fiction. The woman who remained was a pathetic, amoral creature. Prison wouldn't fix her. Let her live with the ruin of her own making. Let her be a nobody with a secret history, always looking over her shoulder. That was punishment enough. I'm okay with it, I said, as long as Ethan pays. Oh, he'll pay, Vance said with grim satisfaction. With this, plus the records Marcus provided, we have him on conspiracy, wire fraud, securities fraud, bank fraud. The sentencing guidelines he's looking at 25 to 30 years. He'll be an old man when he gets out. A grim satisfaction settled over me, cold and deep. When do we move? The AUSA is waiting for my call. Vance said, we can have agents at his office and his apartment within 2 hours. We'll seize all his devices, his records. We'll freeze what's left of the assets. It'll be a circus. Good, Miranda said. The more public, the better. It reinforces Ava's narrative and makes any civil settlement we propose from him look like a mercy. He'll be begging to deal. She turned to me. You should be seen, not at the arrest, but nearby, at your apartment. Let the cameras catch you looking resolute. The wronged wife, watching justice unfold. I nodded. The performance wasn't over. What about the other texter? I showed them the latest message. Marcus, who had been scowling at his laptop, looked up. I've been tracing the numbers. The first one, from the wedding day, was purchased with a stolen ID in Queens. A dead end. This new one, also a burner, activated this morning near Grand Central. Deactivated after sending. But the phrasing, Lion's Den. Little girl, it's familiar. How? Miranda asked. It's something Catherine, my wife, used to say, Marcus said, his voice rough. When I'd complain about the cutthroat partners at my old firm, she'd say, you're in the lion's den. My love, don't let them hear you roar. He shook his head. Probably a coincidence. But it's creepy. A chill went through me. Someone was playing a very personal, very twisted game. Could it be someone from Ethan's firm? Someone he screwed over? Maybe. Marcus said. But the knowledge is intimate. They knew about the meeting with Lily today. They're watching you closely. We'll hire private security for you, Miranda said decisively, starting tonight, until this is over. Before I could respond, Marcus's computer chimed. He looked at the screen, and his face went ashen. You need to see this. He turned the laptop around. On the screen was a gossip site. The Dirt. The headline was in screaming caps. Broken Bride's Bloody Past. Did AVA West Drive EX2 suicide? Below the headline was a photo of me. From college. Looking young and carefree. Next to it was a photo of a man I hadn't seen in 10 years. Ben Shaw. My first serious boyfriend. And next to that, a coroner's report with his name on it. Cause of death, self-inflicted gunshot wound. Date, September 15th, 2016. The article was a masterpiece of malicious implication. It detailed our relationship, my cold, ambitious nature, Ben's struggles with depression after our brutal breakup. It quoted close friends saying I'd destroyed him, that I'd callously moved on to my next conquest while he was grieving. It suggested, without ever quite stating, that I was somehow responsible for his death. My blood turned to ice. Ben's suicide had been the tragedy of my young life. We'd grown apart. Yes, the breakup had been mutual. If sad, he'd been sick, battling a depression he'd hidden from everyone, including me. His death had haunted me for years, and now it was being exhumed and weaponized. This is Ethan, I whispered, my voice trembling with a new kind of fury. This is his counterpunch. It's too fast, Vance said, scanning the article. This is deep, old research. This was prepared. This was the backup plan if the infidelity claim didn't stick. A character assassination. He's trying to destroy your credibility, make you look like a sociopath. My phone began to vibrate uncontrollably. Texts, calls, emails. The story was spreading like a virus. The narrative was shifting. From Poravado, what's she hiding? Miranda's phone rang. She answered, listened, her expression grim. It's CNN. They're running a segment on it in 10 minutes. They want comment. She covered the receiver. What do you want to do? I felt the walls closing in. The past, a wound I'd thought long scarred over, was being ripped open for public consumption. I could see the strategy. Make me so toxic that no one would believe me about Ethan's crimes. Make me the villain in every story. We need to release Lily's confession, I said, my mind racing. Now, before this metastasizes, drown out the noise with a bigger truth. No, Miranda said sharply. If we release that, we tip off Ethan. He might run or destroy evidence. We need to let the feds move first, quietly. Then I need to say something, I said, standing up, pacing. I can't let this desecration stand. Robert Vance held up a hand. Say nothing. Any response gives it oxygen. It's a classic smear tactic. It's designed to provoke you. You need to be the calm in the storm. Let your lawyer issue a statement condemning the invasion of privacy and the exploitation of a tragedy. Then we drop the hammer with the arrest. The contrast will be stark. Him, resorting to gutter tactics. You, the victim of a multi-layered criminal conspiracy. It was the right legal play, but it felt like letting Ethan pour acid on Ben's memory and just watching it burn. My phone buzzed again. A number with a 212 area code. Not Ethan. Not Lily. I almost didn't answer. Something made me swipe to accept. Ava West. A woman's voice. Older. Cultured. Tremulous. Yes. Who is this? This is Eleanor Shaw, Ben's mother. The floor dropped out from under me. I hadn't spoken to Eleanor in 9 years. Not since the funeral. She'd been devastated. Understandably, we'd exchanged a few awkward, painful letters. Then silence. Eleanor. I breathed. I'm so sorry. About the article. It's not true. None of it is. I know. Dear. She interrupted, her voice firmer now. I know it's not true. I read that trash. It's vile. Ben was sick. He was sick long before he met you. And he hid it from all of us. You were a light in his life. For a time. I never blamed you. Not for a second. Tears, hot and unexpected, flooded my eyes. Thank you. I choked out. That means more than you know. I'm calling because I want to help, she said. The reporter who wrote that piece called me. A slimy little man. Offered me money for a quote against you. I told him to go to hell. Then I called my lawyer. We're preparing a statement from our family saying that we consider you family, that we condemn the exploitation of our son's death, and that we support you completely. It will be in the Times tomorrow. I was speechless. This woman, who had endured the unendurable, was wading into my battle to defend me. Eleanor, you don't have to do that. I don't want to drag you into this mess. It's not a mess. Dear, it's a war. And that man you married is a monster. Ben would have hated him. Consider this his contribution to the fight. She paused. Be strong, Ava, and be careful. The man who called me, he knew things. Private things about Ben's treatment. Things only family and his doctors knew. Someone with resources and no soul is behind this. Watch your back. We said our goodbyes. Promises to have tea when it was all over. I hung up, the tears drying on my cheeks, replaced by a cold clarity. Eleanor was right. This wasn't just tabloid trash. This was a targeted, deeply researched hit. Ethan had hired professionals. I relayed the conversation to the room. Vance looked thoughtful. The mother's statement is a game changer. It completely neuters the attack. It makes Ethan look even more desperate and cruel. The sympathy will swing back to you. Harder. It's a gift. It's a weapon. I corrected. And we're going to use it. Miranda, draft the strongest possible statement condemning Ethan for this. Release it in an hour. Then, Robert, call the AUSA. Tell them we have more. Tell them to move. Tonight. Miranda nodded, a fierce light in her eyes. Gladly. 7:30 p.m., 817 Park Avenue. The paparazzi were a scrum of shouted questions and flashing lights outside my building. Carlos and another doorman held them at bay as I pushed through. My head high, the private security detail Miranda had hired, a quiet, imposing man named Henry, clearing a path. I didn't smile. I didn't flinch. I looked straight ahead, the picture of dignified suffering. Inside, the apartment was a tomb. I poured a drink, but didn't touch it. I stood at the window, watching the news vans line the street. At 8 o'clock, Miranda's statement hit the wires. It was a scalpel. It detailed Ethan's desperate and defamatory campaign, mentioned the forthcoming statement from Ben Shaw's family, and concluded with Mr. Cross's attempts to avoid accountability for his financial crimes by exploiting private tragedy reveal a depth of moral bankruptcy that is truly staggering. We are confident the authorities will see through these tactics. 15 minutes later, my phone buzzed. Marcus, it's happening. Now, watch. I switched on the local news. The anchor looked grave. We're interrupting our programming for a developing story. Federal agents have descended on the offices of Crossthorn Capital Management in Midtown, as well as a private residence in Greenwich, Connecticut, in what sources tell us is a major securities fraud investigation. The screen cut to live footage. Agents in FBI windbreakers carrying boxes of files out of a gleaming skyscraper. Another shot, from a helicopter, of a massive colonial home in Greenwich, the Cross family estate. Agents on the lawn. And there, in the center of the Greenwich shot, being led out the front door in handcuffs, flanked by 2 agents, was Ethan. He was wearing a rumpled dress shirt. No tie, his head down, But as they reached the black SUV, he looked up, straight at the camera, his face a mask of stunned, impotent rage. The camera zoomed in. For a second, our eyes seemed to meet through the lens. I saw the moment he realized it was over. The empire, the reputation, the freedom gone. Because of me. A profound, silent stillness settled in my chest. It wasn't happiness. It wasn't even satisfaction. It was an ending. My phone rang. Not Marcus. Not Miranda. The number was blocked. I answered. Hello. For a moment, there was only breathing. Then, Ethan's voice, hoarse with fury, came down the line. He must have been given one call. He'd used it for me. You. He spat. You did this. I said nothing. I'll get out of this. My lawyers are going to be very busy. I finished quietly. And very expensive. How's your liquidity now? Ethan. A guttural sound of rage. You think you've won. You have no idea what you've started. This isn't over. Not by a long shot. It is for you. I said, the next time you see the sky, you'll be an old man. If you're lucky. Goodbye, Ethan. I hung up. I blocked the number. I turned off my phone. I looked back at the TV. They were showing my building now. The reporters chattering about the fairy tale wedding turned federal case. They didn't have the full story. Not yet. But they would. The doorbell rang. Henry, my security, checked the peephole. It's a delivery. For you. He opened the door, took a small, flat box from a uniformed messenger, and checked it meticulously before bringing it to me. It was plain white cardboard. No return address. My name was written on it in elegant, familiar script. Lily's handwriting. I opened it. Inside, on a bed of white tissue paper, were the heirloom diamond earrings, the ones she'd worn to the garden, and beneath them, a single, folded note. Ava, I'm sorry for everything. I'm leaving the city. I won't be a problem for you anymore. Tell the AUSA I'll testify. I'll do whatever they want. I just want it to be over. These belong to you. They always did. Elle. I picked up an earring. The diamonds caught the light. Cold and brilliant. A blood price. I put it back in the box. Closed the lid. I didn't want them. I would give them to Miranda to return to Victoria Cross. Let her explain to her society friends where they'd been. It was over. Ethan was in custody. Lily was broken and turning state's evidence. My name was being cleared. The trust fund was secure. I had won. So why did I feel so empty? The doorbell rang again. Henry checked. It's Mr. Thorne. Let him in. Marcus looked exhausted, but there was a grim triumph in his eyes. It's done. The AUSA has him. They're talking racketeering charges. It's a life sentence. The firm is finished. The clients, it's a bloodbath. But most will recover some through the insurance. I've already been on the phone with the regulators. I'm the clean partner. I'll be overseeing the orderly dissolution. He ran a hand over his face. It's over. Ava, is it? I asked, picking up my phone. I pulled up the text from the unknown number. Watch your back. He frowned. The texter. I'm working on it, but with Ethan in cuffs. Ethan didn't send this one. I said, the timing is wrong. And the tone. This is someone else. Someone who knew about my meeting with Lily. Someone who knew about Ben. I thought of Eleanor Shaw's warning. Someone with resources and no soul. Marcus's phone buzzed. He looked at it, and his face went slack with shock. You need to see this. He handed me his phone. It was an email. The sender's address was a jumble of random letters. The subject line a gift. The body of the email was a single sentence. You're welcome. Attached was a PDF. I opened it. It was a scanned document, a life insurance policy, taken out by Ethan Cross. 18 months ago. The beneficiary, Lily Sloan. The face value, $10 million. The cause of death clause was standard, except for a handwritten addendum in the margin, initialed by Ethan and the insurer. Payout is doubled in the event of accidental death. A cold that had nothing to do with the air conditioning seeped into my bones. 18 months ago, 6 months before the affair with Lily started, before the financial troubles peaked, Ethan hadn't just planned to divorce me. He'd planned a more permanent solution, an accident, and he'd made Lily the beneficiary. Was she in on that, too? Or was she just another pawn, to be disposed of after she collected the money? I looked at Marcus. His face was pale. He was going to kill you, he whispered. The pieces kept shifting, revealing a deeper, darker picture. It wasn't just about money. It was about annihilation. My phone, which I had just turned back on, buzzed with a new text from the same unknown number. See, the lion's den has more than one snake. The big one is in a cage, but the nest is still full. Sleep well, little girl. Then, a second text, a photo. It was taken from a distance, with a long lens. It was me, standing at the window of this very apartment, just 5 minutes ago, holding the box with the earrings. The timestamp was 8:47 p.m. Current time. Someone was watching me, right now, from one of the buildings across the park. The game wasn't over. It had just changed players. June 15th, 2026, 9 a.m. The storm broke with the force of a hurricane. The Times didn't just run the video clip. They ran a forensic, 3,000-word analysis of the Cross family's generational pathology, with Victoria's icy confession as the damning centerpiece. The headline was brutal. A dynasty of ice, mother's calculus IN son's alleged murder plot. Within an hour, it was the only story in the city. The Cross name wasn't just tarnished, it was being dissolved in acid. The carefully constructed facade of old money and genteel respectability vaporized, revealing the rot beneath. Victoria's PR machine, for once, was powerless. You can't spin a direct confession. My apartment, once a sanctuary, became ground zero. The security detail Miranda hired had to be doubled. Paparazzi camped behind barricades. News vans with satellite dishes lined Park Avenue. Every trashy talk show, every cable news network, every podcast wanted a piece of me. I gave them nothing. Miranda single. Terse statement. Ms. West is cooperating fully with authorities and will not be commenting further at this time, was repeated ad nauseum, feeding the frenzy. The legal dominoes fell faster. The U.S. attorney, armed with Lily's full confession and Victoria's damning testimony, upgraded the charges against Ethan. Conspiracy to commit murder for financial gain. The bail hearing was a spectacle. The judge, citing the flight risk and the particularly heinous nature of the alleged scheme, ordered him held without bond. I watched the clip on CNN. Ethan, in a prison jumpsuit, being led out of the courtroom, his face a blank mask. The void, as Victoria called it, finally visible to the world. Lily, true to her word, was in the wind. Witness protection. Rumor had it. A new name, a new town, a life of looking over her shoulder. I didn't pity her. I forgot her. The civil settlement with the Cross estate was negotiated in a single, 12-hour session, with Victoria fighting for the family's last shred of dignity, and Miranda wielding the video like a machete. They capitulated. I got the Park Avenue apartment, free and clear. I got the full $5 million trust fund, plus an additional $3 million in damages from Victoria's personal coffers. The prenuptial agreement was voided, the annulment petition withdrawn. In the eyes of the law, the marriage was being dissolved on grounds of fraud and extreme cruelty. I was a free woman, a wealthy one. It was over. I had won. Decisively. Absolutely. So why did I feel like I was standing in the smoldering ruins of my own life, holding a bag of money that smelled like blood and betrayal? Marcus found me 3 days after the settlement, at dawn, sitting on the floor of the now empty living room. The movers were coming later to take Ethan's things to a storage unit paid for by the estate. I was just staring at a faint scuff on the baseboard where his favorite chair had been. "You look like you lost," he said, handing me a cardboard cup of coffee. He looked as tired as I felt. I did, I said, taking the coffee. It was bitter and hot. I lost my husband, my best friend, my future. I got a bigger apartment and a bank balance instead. It's not a fair trade. He sat on the floor beside me, his back against the wall. No, it's not, but it's what's left. The trick is figuring out what to build with the rubble. We sat in silence for a while, watching the light change over the city. The private war was over. The public one was winding down. Soon, I'd just be a footnote, a lurid true crime story they'd tell at dinner parties. Did you hear about the cross wedding? The one where… What will you do? Marcus asked finally. I don't know. Leave the city. Maybe. Everything here smells like them. I gestured vaguely at the walls. What about you? The firm is gone. The shell of it is. He corrected. I'm starting my own shop. Smaller, smarter, ethical. If such a thing exists in finance, I could use a partner with a steel stomach and a good head for numbers, and someone who understands the cost of winning. I looked at him. The offer was genuine and tempting. A new start, a clean slate, with someone who knew the whole, ugly truth. I'll think about it, I said, and I meant it. My phone buzzed on the floor between us. Not a call, a text, from yet another unknown number. My heart, which I thought had been cauterized, gave a sickening lurch. You think it's over. It's not. The nest is empty, but the eggs are hatching. Check your email. I showed it to Marcus. His face hardened. Don't open it. It's a trick. Victoria's last gasp, or one of Ethan's remaining sycophants. I have to, I said. The curiosity was a disease. I opened my email on the phone. There was one new message. The sender's address was a jumble of letters. watchful.god@tutanota.com. The subject line, a final accounting. The body was blank. There was one attachment, a PDF scan of a single page, a birth certificate. I opened it. The names swam before my eyes. Child, redacted. Mother, Lily Ann Sloan. Father, Ethan James Cross. Date of birth, April 9th, 2026, my wedding day. Time of birth, 11:14 p.m. Place of birth, St. Luke's Hospital, Manhattan. I stared at the document. The redacted child's name. The date. The time. Lily had given birth to Ethan's child on our wedding day, while I was dancing at my reception, while he was toasting me with champagne, while he was, hours later, in my bed. The world didn't tilt. It shattered. This was the final, perfect betrayal, the one they'd hidden from everyone, even Victoria, the ultimate insurance. A child, an heir, a piece of Ethan that would live on, a ghost of their union that would haunt me forever. Ava. Marcus's voice was distant. What is it? You're white as a sheet. I handed him the phone. I watched as he read it, his expression shifting from confusion to dawning horror. Jesus Christ. A baby. They had a baby. On our wedding day. I whispered. The pieces of the last 2 weeks rearranged themselves into a new, even more grotesque picture. Lily's panic wasn't just about jail. It was about her child. Ethan's coldness wasn't just about money. It was about securing a future for his heir. My trust fund wasn't the endgame. It was the startup capital for his new family. Where is it? Marcus asked, his voice urgent. The child. It's not with Lily. She's in witness protection alone. They wouldn't take a newborn. Victoria, I said. The name a curse. She has it. Of course she does. The heir. The legacy. The one thing she couldn't erase. I stood up, my legs shaky. She played me. She gave me the apartment, the money, to keep me quiet and distracted while she took the one thing that actually mattered. The future. My phone buzzed again. Another text. Same unknown number. The child is safe. With family. It will want for nothing. You got your money. Your fame. Your revenge. Let this be the end. Walk away. Or the next war will be one you cannot win. I read it aloud to Marcus. His jaw was clenched. It's a threat. And a promise. It's Victoria, I said, certainty hardening in my gut. She's not done. She's securing the bloodline. She'll raise that child to hate me, to reclaim everything. This isn't over. It's just the end of the first act. The numbness was gone, burned away by a fresh, white-hot fury. They thought they could box me in with money and real estate. They thought I'd take my settlement and disappear. A rich, sad widow. They had no idea. I looked at Marcus. The weariness was gone from his face, replaced by a familiar, grim determination. "What's the play?" he asked. I picked up the birth certificate, the paper flimsy in my hand, the date screaming up at me. My wedding day, their child's birthday. "The play," I said, my voice cold and clear, "is we find that child, and we use it to burn the whole fucking nest to the ground." June 30th, 2026, 3 p.m. The private investigator Marcus hired was a woman named Joe Rossi, a former FBI forensic accountant with the quiet intensity of a guided missile. She found the trail in less than 48 hours. It wasn't that hard. Victoria Cross, for all her cunning, was a creature of habit and pride. The child, a boy, was at the family's cottage in Dark Harbor, Maine, a secluded, 15-bedroom, shingle-style monster on a private island, accessible only by boat. It was the perfect gilded cage. Victoria had registered a new trust fund the day after Ethan's arrest, funded with what was left of her liquid assets. With the child as the sole beneficiary, she'd hired a live-in nurse and a nanny, both with ironclad NDAs. She'd told the few year-round island residents the boy was her grandnephew, orphaned in a tragedy. She was hiding in plain sight, raising the heir to her ruined dynasty, waiting for the storm to pass. "We can't just go up there," Marcus said, leaning over the maps and satellite photos spread across my new dining table. The apartment was mine now, but it still didn't feel like it. It felt like a command post. It's a fortress. And what would we do? Kidnap the kid. That's their game, not ours. "We're not kidnapping anyone," I said, tracing the shoreline on the map. "We're paying a visit, a friendly, unannounced visit from the woman who is, technically, still the boy's stepmother, and we're bringing a reporter." Marcus stared at me. "A reporter? Are you insane? After everything." "The right reporter," I said. I picked up my phone, scrolled to a number Miranda had given me, a contact at the Atlantic, a writer known for long-form, nuanced narratives about power and corruption, not a scandal sheet, a thinker. We give her the whole story, the affair, the fraud, the murder plot, the baby, the grandmother's attempt to resurrect the legacy through an innocent child. We make it a Greek tragedy. We make it so public, so nuanced, that Victoria can't control it. The court of public opinion will decide the child's fate, and it will decide against her. It's a risk. Marcus said, "You're exposing that child to a lifetime of notoriety." "He's already exposed," I said, my voice quiet. "He's the son of a would-be murderer and a con artist, being raised by a Machiavellian grandmother to reclaim a toxic throne. His notoriety is his birthright. The only choice is what kind. We can make him a pawn in their story, or we can make him the reason their story ends." I made the call. The reporter, a woman named Anya Desai, listened in silence for 10 minutes as I laid out the skeleton of the story. She agreed to meet the next day. "But I need to see it," she said. "I need to see the house, the grandmother, the context." "You will," I promised. 3 days later, Marcus, Anya, and I were on a rented speedboat, cutting through the cold, gray waters of Penobscot Bay toward Dark Harbor. I'd told Victoria we were coming. A single text, "I know about the boy. I'm coming to see him. Today, 2 p.m. Bring the press, or keep it quiet. Your choice." She hadn't replied, but as we approached the private dock, a lone figure stood waiting. Victoria, dressed in neutral-toned yacht wear, her posture rigid. She looked older, stripped of her armor, just a woman guarding her last terrible treasure. We tied up. Marcus helped Anya with her professional camera bag onto the dock. I stepped out last. The air smelled of pine and salt and old money. Ava, Victoria said, her voice flat. This is a mistake. Probably. I agreed. But it's my mistake to make. This is Anya Desai. She's writing a story. Victoria's eyes flicked to Anya, taking in the intelligent, calm demeanor, the lack of a tabloid frenzy. She understood the difference immediately. This was worse. I see. And what is the angle of this story? The vengeful ex-wife torments a grieving grandmother. The story is whatever we find here, Anya said, her voice mild. May we come up to the house? For a long moment, Victoria looked at me. I saw the calculation, the weighing of options. She could refuse, make a scene, but the reporter was here. The scene would be part of the story. She could invite us in, try to control the narrative. It was the only move left. Very well, she said, turning. Follow me. The house was exactly as expected, weathered shingles, impeccable landscaping, a view that cost more than most nations' GDP. It was beautiful and utterly lifeless. Inside, it was a museum. No toys, no baby gear in sight, just austere furniture and portraits of dead crosses judging us from the walls. Where is he? I asked. Napping. Victoria said. His schedule is quite strict. I'd like to see him. She hesitated, then led us up a wide staircase, down a quiet hallway. She opened a door. It was a nursery, but not like any I'd ever seen. It was decorated in muted grays and whites, like a miniature penthouse. In a sleek, modern crib, a baby slept. He was tiny, wrapped in a cashmere blanket, a thatch of dark hair on his head. He had Lily's mouth, Ethan's nose. My breath caught. This was the living, breathing proof of it all. Their sin, their secret, my ruin. Does he have a name? Anya asked quietly. Her photographers, I'm missing nothing. James, Victoria said, after his grandfather. James Cross, the next generation. I felt a wave of something so profound it nearly buckled my knees. It wasn't hate. It wasn't love. It was a terrible, aching sadness for the life this child was already condemned to. A life in the shadow of this gothic horror story, raised by this ice queen to carry a banner of hatred and entitlement. What's your plan for him? Victoria, I asked, my eyes still on the sleeping boy. Send him to St. Paul's, then Yale. Teach him about the family legacy, the one his father tried to kill for, the one you conspired to hide. I plan to give him a normal life, she said, but the words rang hollow in the sterile room. Away from all of that, on a private island, with a trust fund, with the Cross name. That's not a normal life. That's a gilded sentence. He'll find out. You know, one day, he'll Google his name. He'll read the stories about his father, his mother, about you, about me. He'll know that his entire existence began as a secret weapon in a war. Is that what you want for him? What do you want? Ava, she snapped, the composure finally cracking. Money. You have it. The apartment. It's yours. What more can you take from me? From this child? I don't want to take anything, I said, turning to face her. I want to give him a chance. A real one. Not as a cross. Not as a pawn. Just as a boy. And how do you propose to do that? Her voice was dripping with scorn. By telling your story to the Atlantic. By making him infamous. No, I said. I reached into my bag and pulled out a document. It was the one thing Miranda and I had been working on in secret for the past week. By giving you a choice. I handed it to her. It was a legal petition for the termination of Victoria Cross's guardianship of the minor child, James, and for the appointment of a new, neutral guardian, a private, non-profit trust administered by a board that included a child psychologist, a financial manager, and one Ava West. The trust would manage the child's assets, provide for his care with a vetted, non-family foster family chosen for their stability and discretion, and ensure he received a normal childhood, anonymous and protected. When he turned 18, he would be told the full truth and given control of his remaining inheritance, to do with as he chose. Victoria scanned the document, her face turning to stone. "You're out of your mind. I will never sign this. I will fight you in every court in this country." "You could," I agreed, "and you'd probably win. Guardianship is a tough fight, but while you're fighting, Anya's story will be published. The world will know about James. They'll know you're hiding him here, trying to mold him into a new Ethan. The press will find this island. They'll stalk him. His life will be a circus before he can walk. Is that what you want? Or do you want to know that he's safe, healthy, and free of all this?" I gestured around the room, at the portraits, at the heavy weight of the cross name hanging in the air. "You're asking me to give up my grandson," she whispered, the paper trembling in her hands. "I'm asking you to love him enough to let him go," I said, "to give him a life you could never give Ethan, a life without the poison." She looked from the document to the crib, where the baby, James, stirred in his sleep, making a soft, sighing sound. The sound seemed to pierce her armor. For the first time, I saw not Victoria Cross, the dynasty defender, but a grandmother, facing an impossible choice. "You would be on the board?" she asked, her voice barely audible. "To ensure the money is managed ethically, to ensure he's protected, not to be his mother, not to be in his life. I have no claim to him, and no desire for one. My role is oversight, to make sure your family's money is used to heal, not to corrupt." She was silent for a long time, staring at her grandson. The clock on the mantel ticked. The wind moaned softly outside. "If I do this," she said finally, not looking at me, "you sign a binding agreement. You never contact him. You never reveal his location. You never speak of him publicly again. The story," she glanced at Anya, "the story can be told without identifying details." Anya said gently, "The focus can be on the system, the corruption. The child can be a symbol, not a specimen." Victoria closed her eyes. A single tear tracked through her powder. She didn't wipe it away. "There is a study. Downstairs. I'll need a pen." 1 week later, the papers were signed, filed, and sealed. James was quietly moved to a home in Oregon, with a retired schoolteacher and her husband who'd been vetted within an inch of their lives. The trust was funded, the board appointed. Victoria retired permanently to Dark Harbor, a ghost in her own museum. My story with Anya Desai ran in the Atlantic. It was a masterpiece, not sensational, tragic, a dissection of greed, betrayal, and the corrosive nature of legacy. It didn't paint me as a saint or a victim. It painted me as a survivor who made ruthless choices. The baby was a shadow in the narrative, a consequence. Protected, the public, sated with the earlier scandals, absorbed this more thoughtful coda and moved on. I sold the Park Avenue apartment. I couldn't breathe there. With the proceeds and the settlement, I bought a loft in Tribeca, all light and space and newness. No ghosts. Marcus and I started the new firm, Thorn West. Small, niche, ethical. Our first clients were people who'd been burned by men like Ethan. It felt like penance. And a future. Epilogue. 1 year later, June 9th, 2027, I was in my office, reviewing a prospectus, when a notification popped up on my screen. A news alert. Ethan Cross had been found dead in his cell at the Metropolitan Correctional Center. An apparent suicide. He'd used a bedsheet. I stared at the headline. I felt nothing. No triumph. No sadness. Just a hollow finality. The void had finally consumed itself. My phone buzzed. "Marcus, you saw." "Yeah. You okay?" "I'm fine." And I was. "Dinner tonight. That new place in the West Village. I'll book it. 8 p.m. I hung up. I looked out my window at the city, glittering in the afternoon sun. My city now. My life. There was a soft knock on my door. My assistant, a sharp young woman named Chloe, peered in. Delivery for you. Ava. No card. She brought it along. White cardboard box. A florist's box. I opened it. Inside, on a bed of green tissue, was a single, perfect white lily. The scent, cloying and sweet, filled the room. Attached to the stem was a small, plain card. No name, just two words. In a handwriting I'd seen 1,000 times on birthday cards and shared grocery lists. Thank you. I stared at the word. From Lily. From wherever she was. Whatever she'd become. Was it gratitude for forcing Victoria's hand? For securing her son's future in a way she never could? Or was it something darker? A reminder that she was out there. That a piece of her, and of him, lived on. I'd never know. I picked up the box, walked to the window, and opened it. The sounds of the city rushed in. I held the box over the alley 3 stories below, and let it go. I watched it fall, the white lily tumbling end over end, until it was lost in the shadows and the grime of the city. I closed the window. The scent of the lily was already fading, replaced by the smell of rain on hot pavement, of coffee from the cart downstairs, of my own new life. It was over, all of it. Finally, I sat back down at my desk. I picked up the prospectus. I turned to the first page and began to read.